and women would play a song called the Fort Worth and Dallas Blues, and then they would be showered with money. I played that song, and it has so far not been my experience.
It's all right, Todd. You'll have your day. So the other day, we threw a party here at the shop. Todd Albright was in town, and you got to throw a party for Todd Albright when he comes to town. So it was great. It was really great. And actually, the whole thing was live streamed over on my Patreon page. I did a guitar repair demo. Dakota Dave Hall just randomly showed up. We all played a bunch of folk music. And in the midst of all of that, like completely off the cuff for like the better part of an hour, was Todd Albright's encyclopedic knowledge of all things country blues. Now, there's a lot of history out there of the country blues, and there's plenty of books. Actually, I recommend these two, The Country Blues by Samuel Charters and Leroy Jones in his book, The Blues People. Yeah, maybe one of these days I'll make a video about some of the books you should read, because you got to read the books. But today, let's learn from Todd Albright, and I put together some clips from this hour-long talk, and he can teach us a little bit about the history of how and why this music was even recorded to begin with, because it's fascinating, and it's an often overlooked piece of the bigger picture. So this is Todd Albright. We're on. Action.
We're ready?
Action.
The situation is this. The country blues, and when I say country blues, I'm talking about music that was unpopular from its inception until its demise. It was not a popular form of music. It was a rural music that was played in the country for country folks, and we're talking, I think the nearest anybody's really narrowed it down was probably the late 1800s, 1885, 1890. It was certainly happening. It was a thing in the country, played by farmers, played by black people, played for entertainment purposes only. There was no record business. There was no music business for this type of music. It wasn't a thing. The music that I love is everything that was recorded between 1924 to about anything before World War II. They started these record companies. We're talking about Paramount Records. We're talking about all the small labels that were subsidiaries of the larger labels, OK Records, Decca, things like that. They started sending out field units, which what that means is they would send out a guy in a Packard car or a Terraplane maybe, and they would put notices in towns like Atlanta, let's say. They would say, we're holding auditions for fiddlers, guitar players, singers, banjo players, whatever you got. We're having an audition at hotel, whatever it is, 3 o'clock on Sunday, and they'd have a line down the street of people wanting to audition to make a record. And it was more a vanity sort of thing. It wasn't about, they weren't professional musicians, most of them. They were people that had jobs and just liked to play fiddle and wanted to make a record. They thought that would be great, and that allowed the record label to also take advantage of them, because there was no such thing as a royalty system. They weren't getting paid for how many units were sold. They were simply getting paid a flat $3 or $4 or $5 to make this record, and then off they went. And then we never heard from them again, in most cases, unless the record took off and sold, in which case they'd be brought back for subsequent sessions. Paramount Records started off as the Wisconsin Chair Factory. They made furniture. They made cases for Victrolas, and they just had a harebrained idea that if we're selling these Victrolas, wouldn't it be great if we had records to go with it to help increase sales? So their business wasn't, making records to begin with, but it eventually ended up taking over the whole business because they were selling a lot of records. Their shortcoming was the fact that they used the absolute cheapest material on God's earth, so their records are the poorest quality. I mean, even brand new in 1930, these records sounded like shit, and if you hear one today, it's like, it's like bacon frying on a gravel road, Another thing about the music business in general and how things have changed, it's like, I don't even think I could consider Blind Willie McTell a blues musician. He was a guy that played blues sometimes. He mostly played whatever you wanted to hear him, whatever would get a quarter or a nickel or a dime thrown into his cup. That was it. I mean, he was a blind man. He didn't have a lot of options. But that was the same for whether you were sighted, unsighted, or had a peg or a leg. You were doing the same thing. You were going to play whatever the customer wanted to hear, and that's just how it was. So to pigeonhole these guys as blues singers. They were not, and maybe the term songster better fits, but I mean, I don't know if that's entirely accurate either, but they would just play whatever was needed. Like Willie McTell, in particular, he worked at a place called the Pig and Whistle, which is a chain of barbecue joints in Atlanta and Georgia. And what he would do is it was a kind of a car hop situation. So you would just pull in and make your order, and some gal on roller skates would come out with a load of food, and you would just sit in your car and eat it, And he would walk from car to car and play whatever song they asked for. So that meant he had to play anything that was popular at the time. So I'm sure he had a great record collection. He knew what was popular in Atlanta amongst his white clientele at this Pig and Whistle restaurant. So he was playing a lot of hillbilly songs. He was playing whatever pop song, like My Blue Heaven. I've heard a recording of him playing My Blue Heaven. I mean, he would play anything that there was, and I think that kind of went for everybody. They weren't just exclusively blues singers, because that narrows your income, by being exclusive to that particular thing. Of course, that's the part of it I love, but it's like I know that Robert Johnson was playing pop songs on the street because he had to. Wouldn't it be great to hear him doing something other than what the record companies were forcing their hand? Blues was a big seller, so I don't care if you know how to play like Jimmy Rogers, or I don't care if you know how to play these hillbilly songs. I want you to play blues because that's what's selling. So we have no idea what the actual repertoires of these guys were, and I'm sure it was expansive, because I've heard, different things about people like Robert Johnson playing all sorts of different fiddle songs and pop songs and different things. Because again, it comes down to economics. What's it going to take to make a dollar? Whatever you can do. I'm going to get bumper stickers made that says "Support your local blues singer." My favorite bumper sticker of all time, I'll end with this. My favorite bumper sticker I ever saw said, "Don't tell my mom I'm a trucker. She thinks I'm a piano player in a whorehouse." Anyway, thanks you guys for showing up and coming out. We're going to play some music here in a minute, and it's going to be good. That's that.
Said a woman that I love, oh, she's so far away. Lord, mama, good God Almighty. Said a woman that I love, she's so far away. But a woman that hates me, Lord, I see that girl every day. She got number 4 shoes, 25 in her waist. Lord, mama, good God Almighty. God.